We are live. It is Monday. I was just informed. It's still Monday the 6th.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Manny Vitale, host of My Fight Our War. And it is a frigid, chilly, cold day in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you guys could see this, the Detroit Lions. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Hats off to you guys, man. Great game. But anyways, we'll get that. We'll chit chat about the Lions on another occasion because we have a very special guest tonight. We've got the one and only Brenda Sunshine Parent coming on to tell her story, and really looking forward to hearing not only about her story and all that, but she is involved in so much more. A lot of us that are dealing in this platform, as far as addiction and recovery, sobriety, and all that, is helping other people. That's Brenda.
Mm-hmm.
That's Brenda, man. I mean, none of us would ever blame anybody if we took our sobriety, once we got that sobriety and the recovery, and just kind of focused on ourselves and our immediate family. But you look at 99.9% of us, and that's what we do. First thing we do is we extend a hand and help others. That's Brenda, and we'll get into that as well. Before that, to my left,
Yay!
we have the one and only OG.
Yay! With my Lions hat on.
OG's in
Go
the
guys.
house.
Yes.
And actually just had the game taped. So before coming on, I got to show her a little bit of the end of the game. So watching that. But
Yes.
we are ready to go. And without further ado, it's time for Sunshine.
I'll go to the preview.
There you go, Brenda. How you doing?
Hi guys, I'm
How
doing
you
great.
doing? Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Can you hear me?
I can. We're gonna have a fun little visit tonight.
I tell you,
Yes,
it's
we are.
going to be nice. I really appreciate you doing that and taking your time and sharing your story with us.
Hmm.
And like I said, everyone knows with OG, she's as busy as can be all the time. She's going to be anyone that has any comments or questions
Mm-hmm.
for Brenda, for myself, for OG. Please hit them up on the comments, and we will
Respond as we
we'll
can.
respond to you. So, OG, you can take care of that. And Wonder Dog Susie is in here. So God knows what's going to happen. You may see her, you may not. So, all right, Brenda. Well, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. I'm great.
Yeah,
It was fun having a little the little icebreaker chit chat before we got started, making sure everything was set up and stuff.
Yeah, we always do that
Mm-hmm.
beforehand, make sure the camera and everything's working good. And other than that, just to kind of chit chat a little bit before going on. And like with you, we've chatted a little bit, and you get to know people, and it's just like, dealing with the same issues and all that, you can relate to each other. And it's such a blessing to be, have you part of our family and us part of yours as well. And like I said, man, it's just one big family.
Yeah, and I had the realization when Lynn was asking me for a photo for the promotion,
Yeah.
and I was wearing the Hands Across the Bridge T-shirt because I was on the committee last year, and I was like, that's when I met Skylar Ray and Kayla. And then I met you, and then I met Lynn, and then the whole thing just wrapped around, and like, boom, here we are in what, like 6 months?
And that's just it too. And me and Skylar were doing a show on different things and how we want different things in life, and you try to will it to happen, make it happen. And that the saying goes is it's God's will, God's time. And when things happen, man, they happen so huge. So, let's just get this little journey started here. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and stuff like that. And we'll just get rolling.
Your journey.
Woo! My name is Brenda, and I will always state I'm an alcoholic and an addict in recovery, in long-term recovery. For some of us, long-term recovery is one day. Others is their clean and sober date. And so for me, it doesn't matter how long that is. It just means that we are going another 24 today, and that's it. I am in the Pacific Northwest. It was an absolutely beautiful day today. And I was feeling a little under the weather a little bit, but I think it was because I didn't get any sleep last night. So I was a little tired and just kind of down. So, but yeah, Vancouver, Washington, right across the bridge, right across the river from Portland, Oregon. So, yep, here in the Evergreen Green State.
Man, I tell you, it is so funny too, man. The people that we have met since I formed this. Actually, this coming Thursday is going to be our 2-year anniversary at My Fight or
Yes,
War.
I heard that.
And the people that we have met, it's just like, yourself, Skylar, Kayla, Katie, Danny. It's just like, like I've always said, we are all one hello away from meeting our best friend and family member.
Yeah, yeah.
There you are.
Never know. You got to manifest it.
Yeah. Have you always have you always lived there? Have you always lived in Washington?
I was born in Tillamook, Oregon. So I've always been called kind of a cheesehead. And then I did a lot of drugs, and drank a lot. So I became more of a cheesehead. I'm a Swiss cheese. And my mom and dad, neither of them ever had a job that I remember. And so we lived on the system and we moved a lot. I can't even remember all of the places I lived, but it was the majority was Portland, Washington, Oregon, Washington, back and forth.
Okay.
Kind of
Was
thing.
there you were talking about your mom and dad not working. Was there an issue with drugs and alcohol with your parents?
Definitely. My dad was an alcoholic. Some might not say that he was, but my experience, and that's what we get to go on it, because we're the ones that have the experience, not anybody else. It's my story. I remember my dad always having a beer, always having a cigarette, always eating pills, always there sitting on the couch watching TV, and that's what he did. That's what my dad
So
did.
that was kind of, it's like we are a product of our environment.
Exactly.
And so is that with your mother as well?
My mom drank, but I wouldn't call her an alcoholic. I think that she, I definitely got my little girl issues, probably from my mom more than my dad. Codependency, low self-worth, dealing with motherfuckers. Can I cuss on here? Sorry.
Well, you did now.
Oh, I fired. Off the show, bitch.
I got our beep button here. So let's see.
Oh yeah. Yeah, codependent. I have never, even to today, right at this very moment, fully found my self-worth as a woman and what I should allow and how I should be treated, because I always, I haven't made it past that version of the little girl from my mom and dad. It's what's there, and when it's ingrained in you and you live in that box, especially with neither of them working, they were always there, and that's what I knew. That's what I learned. I didn't get to learn a lot of the outside world because every aspect of my living, breathing, shitting, sleeping, everything was controlled by my father.
Wow.
Okay, do you have siblings, brothers, sisters?
Yes, there's 6 of us, a set of fraternal twins. So it equals out to 3 girls, 3 boys.
Okay. Are there issues with addiction or anything with them as well?
There is, with, I would say mainly my middle brother, one of the twins. He's had quite a run with alcohol and drugs, mental illness, and that type of thing. My family's not very close because of how we grew up. And actually with my sister Carrie, she's the oldest. And well, she was kind of the mom sometimes. We've been trying to get together, and we've had a few get-togethers. And the last one was sadly canceled because I had another back procedure. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be up taking care of people and serving food the day after the procedure. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of knowledge of what's going on in some of their life, but it's definitely a disease
Yeah.
that's ingrained in our family.
Yeah, you sit there and you talk to people and you get to know about them, their family, and like you said, depending on who you talk to, you say there's about addiction, alcohol, drugs being a disease. And of course, you'll get the ones who have never drank, done drugs in their lives. Oh, it's just a choice, and you know what? They don't. I've had people tell me that. People are like, they find out what I do, my fight our war, and they'll be like, well, all you got to do, talking about different, they ask me about us. I go, well, we help with support. And they go, well, all you got to do is just stop. I'm like, oh, why didn't someone tell me this?
Really.
But, one thing, like you were talking about your parents and your siblings is the proof's right there as far as like the DNA, the family tree.
Mhm.
My family, we have a family of drinkers too, but doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily make it so. When did you actually start first with the drinking and drugs? How old were you?
Well, we're taught when we go through the steps for the first time to like go to the very first moment. And the first time I remember is third grade, the little yellow house over by Fircrest Elementary in Orchards, Washington. That was the first time I smoked a cigarette, and that was the first time I drank a beer. And I was sick. I was so sick, and it was disgusting, and I didn't like it. But a true alcoholic will not let that stop them. And then I trickled in with it like from there on. It was always around. My aunts and uncles, there was always a party at the house, or they would all go out and leave us kids at home because my sister would kind of be the mom at times, or a sitter sometimes, I guess, when we were really little. So it was always there. It was just it, and it was available, and so we would dabble in it. And I think when I really, really started, I think it was like late middle school, early high school, when I was realizing just how uncomfortable I was in my skin, and how much I didn't like myself, and how much Brenda was so invisible. And so when I first tried the cross tops and I kicked ass in basketball, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, right on." Yeah. I'm like, "Ooh, I became somebody for a second." And
Mhm.
then from there it was like smoking weed off the top of a pop can when you like poke the holes in and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
I don't know if I was high, but I played along like I was high, because I was like, "Oh, Brenda's high." And I'm like, "Yeah, I scored again. Like somebody sees me." And then from there, man, as soon as I put the alcohol in my system, I was immediately a blackout drinker. Immediately
Right from the beginning.
right from the beginning, 13, 14 years old, I was immediately a blackout drinker. Even with chew, I even tried chewing to try to fit in. And oh my God, I'll never forget how sick I was on that. I puked for hours. Oh, it was so gross because I didn't know how to do it. So I obviously swallowed it. I have this big old dip, you know.
We had, it's so funny. We had, remember, well, are you talking about the little stuff like right in just right in your cheek, right? Or right in the gum, just a little bit of chew. We had, remember like the big leaf, you see like the baseball players with the big hunk in there.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
the
when
like tobacco stuff.
when I was little, I have a similar story. We were playing baseball and the umpire gave us a bunch. So here we are, shoving this stuff in there, spitting away, and just like getting dizzy, feeling like I'm gonna puke. My buddy was up to bat. He was up to bat and he got hit with a pitch. And he's laying there, and they thought he was having a seizure. He swallowed it,
Oh God.
and it was just like, so yeah.
Gross.
But so basically, so here, you start at such a young age, and as far as like kids, you experiment and all that. But you said, I'm sorry, it was like 13 when you said you noticed it was like that's
Yep.
when it started there to the blackout right at
Yep.
13.
Eighth
And
grade, ninth grade.
so is
Yeah.
that basically, drinking alcohol, or what about drugs? When did that come into your life?
Drugs I was kind of a late bloomer with, besides marijuana.
Mhm.
And sadly, people don't really count that as a drug, but it is for us who can't control ourselves. So I would say cocaine and methamphetamines, crank, cocaine, whatever. That all kind of started happening around. I think I tried cocaine in like my junior year, maybe. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all because my teeth were really crooked, and it like I was really, really insecure about my teeth, so I never smiled. So I always blame my smile lines on that because I didn't like my teeth. So yeah, it was like that. I felt like a rabbit with the big giant teeth. And so so I didn't do cocaine again after that until I was like already a mom with 2 kids. But when meth happened, yeah, that was a whole different story. But again, that was late bloomer, like I would say 1992 was when I really started doing those two drugs.
So how old were you then? About
Let's see.
so is
I
that
had
early 20s or
probably 20, 21. I
okay.
had two kids already.
See, and that's just like, you hear some of these stories with people that they went from like sipping a beer to shooting up by the time they were like 12.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like it was mainly drinking too until after high school and when everything kind of like that late bloomer thing kind of relates. So it was like your family, were your friends that you hung out with, were they drinking drugs too? Was it pretty much all around you?
Well, I didn't have any friends because my dad controlled every aspect of our life. And he thought if we talked to somebody that we would let somebody know what's going on at home. And
Oh,
so there was that control. So my brothers and sisters literally had to watch each other at school and go back and report if we talked to a boy or anything like that. And so I always relate myself to the chick that sat in the back of the room on the Breakfast Club.
Okay.
She
I know
mhm.
the
exactly.
head down with the dandruthy hair, like
Mhm.
nobody liked her. She was invisible. She was just a nobody until somebody took that chance.
No,
That's okay.
it's
That's
okay.
okay.
Just take your time, Brenda. It's just people that and that's just what I mean with people that don't understand. That's why what you're doing is you are
So
so
brave.
heroic for coming on along with everyone else who comes on and shares their story because what they don't understand is we are sharing things to help people. What you're doing is helping so many people, but at the same time people need to realize we're sharing such personal stories about ourselves
Mhm.
and it's very painful,
Mhm.
but we do it because we don't want anyone to feel this pain.
Yeah.
That's why we do it, and that's why I commend you so much, and
Mhm.
everyone who comes on our show, anyone who comes on anyone's show and does what you're doing. So again, thank you so much for doing this and sharing this because just know how many people you are helping. And by showing you're not a victim and you're not weak, you are strong by all that you are doing. Man, I mean, every time you look
Warrior.
in the mirror, you look at that champion looking back at you. Always remember that. So, you with these stories, you're surrounded by your environment. Your environment becomes you,
Mhm.
and at such a young age. As far as that, how did it affect your like school as far as like grades and stuff like that? Did how
I
did that
didn't I
affect
didn't
it?
care. I didn't care about school. I just sat in there with my hat over my head and my head down on the table. Um I was just a walking zombie. I was just this empty shell of a human. I
And that,
had no
and that
desire to do anything at all. And
was
what's
that.
really sad about that is I'm fucking smart. Like I'm in this job right now and I'm bored out of my mind every single day. I get my work done by like 10, 11 o'clock, and then I have nothing to do. And it's a brand new job. And so it's that's like a reminder of like how the school system is and how the teachers need this extra like training and stuff, like if they see a kid sitting in the back or the one that's getting bullied or teased or anything like that, the one that's closed up and nobody, the one that is invisible in their classroom, to reach out and to, you know are you okay, like,
Yeah.
do I even
Mhm.
know your name, kind of thing, like you're here in my classroom, but do I even know your name? And
Mhm.
it's so important. And with the school systems and the funding and all that other stuff, that's not looking like it's gonna, improve a whole lot, with what's going on with all that stuff. But yeah, so I passed all my classes and made it through high school, but I didn't try in anything. I just did it.
Now with high school and the whole time you were in school, junior high, high school, and all that, you said drugs really didn't come into play till after high school, right? It was
Yeah, yeah.
mainly drinking.
Yeah.
Now, was your drinking? I mean, was it an issue? You said at 13 is when you started the blackout drinking. Was this something you did like at a daily basis? Did you notice that there was a problem, or it was something you did every day?
Not every day because we weren't really allowed to leave the house. So you're like bringing up all these memories of my childhood. It's kind of a trip. Um, I don't even think I told anybody this before, but um, I used to sneak out of the house. We lived out in Amboy, Washington, which is kind of like the country area out north of where we're at. And I used to crawl out the bedroom window of the double wide manufactured home. I had an old Dole steak knife, because we were poor, so like they didn't ever cut the thick meat that my mom would cook, and so hence being a vegetarian because the meat was always so gross. I love you, Mom. And so I would have that knife out there, and I would go walk down 2 miles to see my younger than me boyfriend at the time, and we would drink and we would screw around, and then I would walk back 2 miles up the hill and crawl back through the window and go to bed. And
Yeah.
so it's just little sneaky things like that. And then I think it started getting really bad when not long after that little period right there, which was getting closer to 15, 16, um, when things at home were so bad with my father. And me and my little sister just decided one night to run away. And not like the whole like I'm leaving, I'm running away kind of thing, and go around the block and get scared. But we literally, and these are windy country roads at the time. There was no big houses or anything like that. It was land with houses in between, and it was a rainy night, and I'll never forget. We're running down this, and we're like probably 30 miles from the actual town, from a police station, and I'm probably exaggerating there, but it was a long time away. And every time we saw headlights, it was like this rush. I'll never forget it. It's still like within me, just like my last drunk. It was this rush of like, oh my God, it's our fucking dad, and he's gonna kill us. He's gonna kill us if he finds us because we ran away. And we would jump down into this big giant ditch, this muddy ditch. We'd wait for the car to pass, and then we'd be like, okay. And we'd crawl out of the ditch and we'd run down the road some more. And then we got to a point where we saw a house with the lights on. And then we went there, called the cops, and just told them some of the stuff that was going on. And they took us, and we were both put in a foster home. And so, yeah, that's when my drinking got really bad, when I was in that foster home and away from. It was almost like this retaliation, freedom from like all this life I've been like held down with. I'm like, oh, there's just stuff out there that I can do now.
That was at, I'm sorry, 15. Is that
15, 16, yeah, 15. Yeah, 15.
So did you end up going back home, or were you in the system? Did you stay in foster care?
Eventually went home. I don't remember if I think my sister maybe went back before me. But when we did go back, we stayed with the neighbors, which were super great neighbors, good people. But they didn't understand abuse or addiction or anything like that. And you know what? I watched my dad beat the shit out of my brothers. From what I remember, I don't remember ever getting hit. But again, I thought I was smart because I closed up and I became invisible. So I learned to get the fuck out of the way from a really young age, and I just became that speck of dust underneath the rug, and that's where I went. That's where I still go today when someone is treating me poorly or talking at me bad or yelling at me or anything like that. I close up and I become that little speck of dust. And so when we went to those neighbors' houses, um, oh, Barbara and Frank. I don't remember their last name, but Barbara and Frank. And I've actually reconnected with one of their daughters that I was friends with at the time, not too long ago, which was super cool. But we went there, and my dad was not supposed to be at the house when we came back, and so every single visit we had, he was there. And so I never, ever, ever felt valued or chosen or important or enough. I've never been enough for anybody in my entire life. I've never been enough.
Wow.
And so they were exhausted from the whole process of it. And, us girls were being torn back and forth between my abusive dad and then my mom, who kind of obeyed my dad. And we were just like yo-yo yanked back and forth, and they finally just got tired, and it became a neighbor war with the whole thing. And us little girls were like, I mean, we were little girls at the time, and we shouldn't have been involved in any of that stuff. And so it really put a wall in the friendship with those neighbors. And that was the last I'd heard or seen of them until I ran into my friend Andrea a couple years back. Yeah. So but that's when the drinking got really bad. And whew, we moved into, did I get, actually, I missed a step. I got pregnant while at the foster home. Yeah. Yeah.
So this was before
Before I
going
moved,
back to the
before
neighbors,
I
right?
moved back. Yep. And with that, that was probably it's crazy that, like, when you're in the moment and you're wasted and you're there and stuff, like, you can't make these decisions. But when we start talking about it, our mind replays the everything.
Yeah.
I remember the trailer park in Vancouver. I remember, obviously, the person that I made my son with. I remember the other lady that was there that I didn't know he was dating at the time. And so, and I want to say, I apologize if this triggers anybody. Anything I say, if it triggers anybody, make sure you have somebody to talk to, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to be transparent and real, because people need to hear that other people go through stuff and that it's okay to talk about it, because we're told a lot of times that we can't talk about stuff. People don't want you to tell what's going on behind closed doors. And that's when we need to talk about it, because people need to know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that night was, I pretty much seduced him. He did not want to be with me. His girlfriend was out in the living room.
Oh. Hmm.
So yeah, and that's just me being raw and honest, and going through the memory of it. And yeah, so I became a mommy. I had him like right after I turned 17. I was a super super young mommy, a baby
So
raising a baby.
so when that happened, that's when you went to the neighbors. And
Yeah.
you and your sister, were you staying with the neighbors, or were you back and forth between the neighbors and back and forth with your mom and dad?
We like all the way around. We were at the foster home doing visitation with the neighbors, and
Okay,
then
so you're
visitation at home. And then Frank and Barbara let us stay there for a short amount of time. And then, the rules weren't being followed, so
yeah.
that's when they just got tired, and we went back home. And then shortly after that, we as a family moved into Vancouver, and my dad did not live with us, but he was always there, always
So
there.
he so, was it still you, your mom, and all of your brothers and sisters still at this
Yeah,
time?
yeah. I think my sister Carrie was in Pennsylvania. She kind of left and went and did nanny stuff. Met the old Will Smith while he was rapping out on a corner way back then, before he was the Fresh Prince.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh.
So with all this stuff going on, I mean, there's 15 by 17, you're a mom.
Hmm.
So where does life take you from there? I mean, from 17 on, what are you doing as far as, with working, with, anything going on as far as any education? What are you doing from 17 on?
I gladly stayed in high school. We moved again because remember I told you we moved a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually trying to get on with the county at one point a few years back, and when I was doing my background check, I'd passed everything, and then I was doing the background check, and it just became so much, and it was so much trauma I hadn't dealt with yet, and so I just like backed out of it, which is good because I'm a big softie. I shouldn't be in the jail. Like,
Oh,
no, I'm too nice. I'd be like, oh, you need some extra food, or oh, you need some tissue. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not a hard ass at
it's a
all.
different environment, that's for sure.
Yes. Um, so from age 18 to 20 or 46 at the time, I think there was 26 addresses, and I could remember every single one from what year to what year and what the address was. 26 addresses in that
I'm sorry,
time frame.
between 17 and what was
18
it?
years old. 18 years
Oh.
old and 46 years old.
okay.
Wow.
26 addresses.
And it
That's
was
not counting
this
all the previous ones.
and it was this you and your son, or was this the you, mom, and siblings?
I moved out shortly after I had my son.
Okay.
Yep. So, yep.
So it was just you and your son at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was going on as far as it's just you and your son? What are you doing as far as for working, for finances, for paying bills and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, I graduated high school.
Mhm.
The high school was one of the first, I think it was the second one to have a nursery there. So I took him to the nursery, and I had complications with my pregnancy, and so I ended up on bed rest, and then I had a tutor come. So I got to walk graduation, which is a huge accomplishment because people like me don't get a chance to do that, starting out the
Definitely.
way we started out and making the choices that I was making. And so I hold that as a great accomplishment that I did that.
And you
And
should.
then I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go on the system like I grew up on. I
Hmm.
really tried not to do that. And so I found a home daycare center, and I went and checked it out. And again, I'm 17 years old. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to be a mom. I wasn't taught how to be a mom. I didn't know what to look for or anything like that. But I went and got a full-time job at Burger King, and I was good at it because we put on a face, we put on that mask when we just try to be happy. But I was so gullible, and I grew up in a box so much that doing the onion prep, it hurt my eyes so horribly bad. And somebody told me to put a Whopper bun in my mouth and that it would absorb the onions as it went up. Guess who stood there during morning rush hour with a Whopper bun in her mouth doing the onion? Jesus.
Welcome to Burger King hazing. Yeah. So did it help?
I don't think it did. I don't think it helped. I was just like, okay, somebody just told me to do this.
Well, so this time, so you're working at Burger King, you're taking care. Are you?
Yep.
So you're getting some help with daycare with your son.
Yep. Yep. Got help with daycare.
You're working full time.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you're working, you're paying your bills. So that part's going good. Do you have?
Mhm.
And does anyone come into your life at this time as far as a relationship?
Well, I was still living at home because that was like right after my son was born. He was born in March. I graduated in June, so he was just a few months old. But I would call the daycare, and every single time, it didn't matter what time of day I called, she said he was sleeping. And I'm like, my baby doesn't sleep that much. It was kind of weird. And then one time I went to pick him up, and he was laying on the dirty floor with the husband or the dad just sitting there, and he had a big cut on his forehead that had blood on it. And I was like, why is my baby on this dirty, cold, gross floor? And why does he have blood on his head? And she didn't explain it. And it was just such this, like, it was like my first shot of intuition that I actually followed. And so I quit my job and I took my baby out of that daycare. Not to say I didn't put him in horrible, unsafe situations with my alcoholism. from that point on. But I took him out of that daycare, and then I got on the welfare system for a little bit of cash money and stuff. And then not long after that, I met my daughter's dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, with this going
Yep.
on, besides with the alcohol, you said then drugs came into play.
Yeah, it was just kind of like whatever was there and available,
Mhm.
except for shooting up, except for doing heroin. And I don't know why, but I there was always this little voice in the back of my head that knew I would love it too much,
Oh, wow.
that I wanted to
Mhm.
escape the world too much, that I just didn't do it. Just
So
didn't
you
do it.
never have.
Never did
You never
heroin. No.
see.
Nope.
That's
Not
just
that
the
I know
same
of.
thing.
Not that I know of
That,
anyways.
and that's the thing. I've had people that'll ask me during shows and interviews, going through telling the story, and it's almost the same thing. Where it's like going through my story. It's like by the grace of God, it doesn't make anything else, go away. But luckily, I've never gone that road either. So
Mhm.
that's a blessing. With
Yes.
this going on in your life, you said is this getting worse by the day? Do you notice the drinking getting worse and the drugs that are there? Is this getting worse? Is this a progression?
Yeah, I started the alcohol became before my son,
Hmm.
and then shortly after that, my older daughter was born, and yes, partying was more important than anybody or anything. The disease was my life. That was what took me out of myself. It's what made me feel good for a moment. But it never really made me feel good. It's the mind tricking you. It's the disease tricking you. And and so my kids were with sitters all the time, or with my mom all the time, or if nobody would watch them because they tried to set a boundary, I would take them to the parties with me. I was a horrible mom. I still, to this day, I'll have these memories, and my kids will say, "Mom, it wasn't as bad as you remember." And I'm like, "Yes, it was, and they probably just don't remember yet. And at some point in their life, it'll come out like it does with all of us, because we shove that shit away. We put it in our pockets for a minute because it hurts. And when it's ready to come out, it comes out. And I remember stuff. And every year that I'm clean and sober longer, I remember more. And someone told me once that you don't remember it right now because you're not strong enough to go through it, and God will reveal it when He thinks you're ready to. So, so yeah, I still, at 20 years clean and sober, I have a lot of shame and remorse over what I put my children through, because I thought I was doing a little bit better because I didn't have this type of situation like I grew up in, or this type of situation. I mean, I was like, there were times where my uncles were over at our place when we were little girls, and we were watching a lot of bad stuff happen out in our living rooms. And there was one time where our uncle chased me and my sister down the hallway, and we both had to hold that door closed so he didn't come in and get us. So the trauma and the stuff that makes us want to choose something to feel better about ourselves, it happens way before the first drink, way before the first time we get high. It happens from the time we come out the vagina. It's like, if we're in an environment that is unsettling, unstable, and chaotic, and I guess I can't really say for everyone. There are people that grow up in healthy, stable, controlled homes that have addiction as well. So for my story, it started from the get go. I used to rock myself to sleep because I was so anxious all the time. I remember from second grade on, I used to rock myself to sleep, and we shared bunk beds. Three girls in one room, three boys in the other room. And so my dad wouldn't let me sleep in the bed because I kept loosening the knobs. So I slept on the floor with a fitted sheet and pillow. And I would lay there on the floor, and I would rock myself to sleep for hours and hours and hours and hours. It's
See,
probably why I have, yeah.
and the thing is too, with people that talk about and share their story and their experiences, is there's so much that go hand in hand. and there's reasons behind things, and sometimes there's not. And you sit there, and some people will say, "Well, there's got to be a reason for this," and you're got to find this underlying thing. And sometimes life just throws you a shitty deal, and and that's why with us at My Fight Our War, man, we listen to everything, because
Yeah.
you've got addiction, you've got mental health issues. You may have one that all of a sudden transitions into the other.
Yes.
And with that, and the main thing is, like you said, to talk about it, to confront it. And like for me, I always say for myself, because I'll never sit here and tell you, Brenda, if you want to be sober, you have to do this. If you want to stay sober in recovery, I will never do that to anyone. And I don't think anyone has the right to tell you that you have to do this and only this, or else you'll fail.
Yeah.
For me, you know what? It's just, I had to own it first and foremost. And it sounds very simple. And for me, that was the turning point, is once I owned it and took responsibility, looked in the mirror, and it was like,
That's so big.
because until you own it, it owns you. And you
Yes.
can sit here and you can make all these statements and or all these different things that you're saying and proclamations, but until you own it, it will always own you. And another thing is addiction. Just remember, man, sunshine, addiction is only a freaking word. It's only a word. It's addiction is not a death sentence.
No.
You're living proof. We're all living proof. Hold on a second. We got.
I just want to, just so you know, when this is done, I know we got a ways to go yet, because you've got an amazing story. When this is done, I want you to read the comments, because
we've got some. We're actually
the love that you are getting.
We're going to go over some.
Audience right now.
We're going to go
You've
over
got
some.
people in tears. You've got people sending you prayers. You've got people sending you blessings. Just so when you're done,
we're actually going to go over a few right now.
Beautiful. They're beautiful. Well, there's a few people who have lived similar.
King Handsome.
Yeah.
Lots
of prayers.
All of them. King Handsome chiming in. You know that, man. Whoa.
Lori,
is in house. He's here for you. Trisha Gibson sending you love. Stephanie Rose is sending you lots of love.
Yeah, she's living a lot of your life.
Here it is right here for you, Brenda. 20 years. That's amazing. I have not made it one whole year yet. But you know what, Stephanie? Brenda had to do 1 year before she made 20. Yeah. So there you go for there.
Yeah.
And then we've got, here we go. We've got our family in Athens, Alabama. Lori. She's praying for you all the time. You've got Lori. You've got all of us here for you. You know that. Just who else we got here? I just wanted to show this, for you. This is all coming for you, Brenda.
Katie and Danny.
Of course,
Ginger.
Katie and Danny.
Tyler.
And they live near me, right? Katie and Danny?
Yes.
Katie and Danny.
If
you guys are still on, Katie, Dan, if you guys are on, give a shout out where you're at, because
you can tell us what city you're
in. Because you're pretty close, and we're all going to be there in August, 1st of September. But this is just the story and the thing that you share. And sometimes people look for, like for you said, I was telling OG, and I tell people sometimes, every now and then, it's almost out of nowhere, a slideshow will pop into my head, and all of a sudden it'll be from the past. Something will come up. It's just like this vision of something that happened in my past. And another thing, just again, my opinion, is I've had people will say, well, Manny, you know what? I'll bring up the past, or I'll start talking about that. And they're like, you know what? Don't talk about that. Let it go. And I'm like, no, I'm not letting it go. One, I want to remember how terrible I felt. I want to remember the evil, terrible parts of that of my life, to know that I have grown and I've made such an advancement, and I've made these, just huge steps in my life. So looking back at that, where I was to where I am, you know what? I'm not dwelling on it, but I'm still going to go back, and I'm glad that I feel like shit when I think about it. So
because we don't want to go back.
Exactly. Right. So for you, talk about what you just talked about, how certain things in the past, God bless you, because you know what? You are taking this shit head on. You are a freaking, animal. You are a force to be reckoned with. You know what we say? You're a warrior. And you're taking this on, and I celebrate you just like all of us do. and with this here going on, I know that, like you said, you can see the product here, the environment, mom and dad, you and your siblings seeing that. Well, now with your children,
Mm.
so they're witnessing mom, right?
Mhm.
So, as they're growing up, how long? I mean, is this gone on like throughout their childhood?
Yeah,
Seeing mom
yeah.
do this.
Yep, yep. Let's see. My son, his entire life until he was a teenager. Same with my older daughter. And then Nikki, think think I stopped using, or let's say, I think I surrendered. We'll just use that word because it's such a powerful word. When she was in kindergarten. So Nikki remembers some stuff. She's my youngest, but Ryan and Macy, they got the grunt of it, especially Ryan. He got the grunt of it. Uh, yeah, yeah. Whether they remember it or not. In fact, the other day, my older daughter tagged me in a post, and oh God, I just feel like shit for this still. And she's laughing about it, and here I am still feeling guilt after 20 years.
Wow.
She posted a jar of paste picante sauce, and she said it's a good thing this didn't come in the hot style or something back then, because my mom used to put it in our mouths when we would cuss. And I did used to do that. I used to put hot sauce in the mouth. But where did they learn the language from? Me and their father and everybody that was surrounding them in the household, all the adults. But the kids got punished for mimicking what they were being taught. And I have a hard time laughing about that because it was so wrong to do. But I didn't
Well,
know any different at the time.
I tell you, it's so funny, man. I remember the things that happened to me and my cousins when, I mean, especially, you get the Italian family and, you get hit with anything from a wooden, that anyone knows the wooden spoon.
The
You
wooden
go,
spoon.
you're going to get tagged with that wooden spoon. My mom was famous for, I tell you what, anything that was in grabbing, throwing distance. Shoe, I mean, slippers. And God bless. I mean, the worst thing I remember doing one time is she took a swing and I moved and she hit the door jamb with her hand and hurt her hand. Well, I started laughing my ass off. Bad idea.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when we were younger, we used to get spanked. I mean, it was like, okay, you're gonna get a spanking when you get home. And now seeing family and friends who are now have kids, and they're like, okay, we are gonna discuss this as this tantrum. All right, count to three. And I'm like, man, just get back, But
Two and
there's
a half, two and
oh,
three
well, and
quarters.
there's a difference between obviously discipline and abuse. I would never condone, obviously, ever. But yeah, just like you were saying, how this hot sauce. Well, I mean, hell, you're getting the old lava soap in the mouth for swearing.
Yes.
But but the thing is, though, I mean, for you, you're so your kids are seeing this, but they're also seeing as the years pass, the recovery part. Before that, though, I mean, there's dark sides of what we do, and we as I said, we have to own it. I will sit there, and there's times, and it's again when people are like, "Oh, don't go there, don't go there. You're just gonna go back, and you're gonna regress." No, I'm not. And I can't speak for everyone, but every now and then, if I get in this little funk, I will remember where was I, 6 because this January 27th is going to be 5 years sobriety for me. And I look back where I was 6 years ago, 7 years ago to where I am now. And it's just such a blessing with you. Growing up all these times, we all have terrible things that we've done and through with our addiction. Did anything happen as far as, you hear stories about being pulled over, being arrested, going to jail, anything like that? Did you get to enjoy that part?
I didn't. And you know
Oh,
why? Because I was special friends with a cop.
Oh,
you had a cop friend with benefits.
Something about the uniform. I don't know. But yeah, I used to I drank and drive like the rest of us, and I should have been pulled over so many times. I should have gone to jail for the party at my house. I should have gone to jail for the teenagers at my house using meth for the first time. I should have gone to jail for the drug dealers coming to my house or going to the drug dealer's house. I should have gone to jail for driving through the flipping Taco Bell drive-through with a glass of beer in a see-through glass, calling it apple juice, because we like to believe the lies so we can deal with what we need to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
I should have been to jail so many times, but I was never arrested. I never got caught is what I say, because I should have been so many times.
Just like that,
Yep.
I used to tell people it's not illegal if you don't get caught. And
Mm.
but then I've talked to other people that have been on the show, and we'll talk about that as far as like the legal system, being in the system, and they'll turn around and they're like, Manny, that's the best thing that ever happened to me was being thrown in
Yes.
jail, because it was now they weren't in control. Now, it's like now reality, took over. What about, okay, no jail. There was nothing like that you ever had. What about as far as going into any of the systems, as far as like recovery? Was that anything you've done as far as, I mean, I know we do what we do now, but was there ever, since there was nothing done as far as legalities, because sometimes depending if you get caught driving, drunk driving, or drugs or whatever, sometimes the penalty in law is you are required to
Required. Yeah.
go to recovery.
Yeah.
So you never had to deal with anything like that either, did you?
Not being forced to, no. When I was, I guess it was 1990. Let's see, I had Nikki in 1996, so it was 1995. I don't remember what happened or why, but I made the decision to stop. And I was so bad on meth that I couldn't I couldn't even eat or swallow anything. I would roll up these teeny tiny little balls of bread, and I would pop it in my mouth, and I would chug it with a beer to get something in my stomach, because I could not chew anything. Because like when I go for something, I go like all in hardcore. The first time I ever smoked meth was off a piece of tinfoil, and everybody else was still there playing cards, and I'm like, I don't feel it. I don't feel it. How are you guys so mellow? I don't feel it yet. I don't feel it yet. So I kept doing more and more and more and more and more and more and more. So my first time was like 5-6 nights up, to where I was hallucinating, and I was hearing people, and the cops were coming. There was aliens on the outside of my window pulling the blinds down, coming in to get me. I went hard, and I went fast. I could not even sit in the bathtub without putting a towel there, because my bones were sticking out so hardcore. And so like one point, I just like woke up the next day. Oh, you know what happened with that? Ooh. And this is part of my story that I don't share with a lot of people because of judgment or misunderstanding or whatever, but I believe that I died that night. I honest to God believe that I died that night, because I was hovering my body, and I saw that brown, whatever, gross couch from back then. I saw the people in my house partying. I don't know where my kids were, but I hardly ever knew where my kids were. The husband was kicked out again for his treatment in the family, and it was always domestic stuff. And I hovered, and I watched, and I looked down at my dying body laying there on the couch. And then the next day, some guy that was like hooked on heroin, hiding behind the furniture, thinking that there's helicopters trying to get him. He asked me to go to like Montana or something. Let's go, get away from this. And I'm like, I don't even know your name. And this is why I was feeding my kids a can of pork and beans for breakfast, with in the can with the lid on it, and then making my kids sit there and pray for their food, when I just had another party for like 5 nights in a row where they haven't slept, they haven't been fed, they haven't been nothing. And that's when I called my mom and went to treatment, or went to detox, when detox was up here by Clark College. And then immediately getting checked in detox, I was sent to the hospital because I almost died that night. I was 86 pounds.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
That's well, you know what? Like I said earlier about you got to own it. It sounds like you owned it that night.
Yeah.
And So you said you reached out to your ma. Was that what you said?
Yeah, yeah. I was taking the treatment. I remember trying to
Yeah.
smoke a cigarette on the way to treatment, and my son was so angry with me, and he took the whole pack and he scrunched them up, and they had rightful reasons to not like me, and so from there I went into a 30-day treatment program, and then I got out. Literally went to court, willingly went to court, willingly asked the judge to place my children with a family member at the time because I knew that we couldn't take care of them. Um, I can't say for sure whether the kids' dad was clean and sober. I don't think he was, but that's not my business. I was just focused on me, and I was trying really, really hard to change my life. But we all know if we don't change our living environment and everything that's going on there, it's going to be a lot harder to stop using drugs or drinking and stop trying to escape what we've been trying to hide from our entire lives. And so I did the treatment thing, got out, did some visitation thing with the kiddos while living with the ex-husband's mom in their tiny little duplex. And she was like preacher's daughter. So she didn't understand any of this. She was just like, it was like so uncomfortable. So me and the kids pretty much lived in the bedroom there. And then from there, I went into doing a church program called Safe Ministries. I don't know if that's still around or not, but it was a Christian-based recovery program. But I was being counseled at the same time with the husband at the time by an older man who had sexual offenses towards women. And so there was no safety for me to be able to talk about my shit and like what's going on and why I drink and anything. The husband was there and then the guy there that's done things that I'm traumatized by. So literally, this is one that I kind of giggle about, but I went through the program twice. I got a certification. I got a certificate, and then I took other people through the program because I lived at the church. I worked at the church. I just jumped into the church. I became a pastel heels and nude nylons kind of chick. And but when doing that, I forgot about all the other stuff that needed worked on. I just jumped into the church. Um, I got to a point to where I relapsed on, and I call it a relapse because I did have a little bit of recovery time, even though it wasn't a 12-step program or anything like that. I didn't have a sponsor or anything like that. I started getting these horrible headaches. Oh, and so the NyQuil like just took my headaches away. And back then, 1995, 96-ish, NyQuil was like 99 cents, the generic brand. And so started drinking like a jar of NyQuil a night to,
Oh yeah.
yep.
Yep.
And I was like, yep.
Yeah, some people don't know, man. There's alcohol in
There's
NyQuil,
alcohol.
man. When
I to this day will not take NyQuil. I can't do it.
you know what I
I'm scared
had
of it.
when I in the winter, I sometimes would every year I would get strep throat real bad, and I get like bad like a flu, and you at night before going to bed, I'd always have some NyQuil. It helped me sleep, go to bed. Well, after my situation, when I was told I had less than 6 weeks to live and my organs shut down and all that, came home that following year, that following winter, I got sick and I had I go, well, I'm just gonna go grab NyQuil, not thinking about the alcohol. So here I am taking the NyQuil. All of a sudden, the feeling I've just felt like you said, hallucinating, like floating, just felt this straight. And then I realized there was alcohol in there, and damn near scared the shit out of me, man.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I've seen people with the police department working the psych med unit, they will drink, anything, alcohol. We had a guy came in drink antifreeze. I mean,
that's a thing
just
now.
whatever it is.
Yep.
But so with this here, you jumped into that. So that was your recovery. And what were the steps that you took to stay where you're at and do what you do? How did you do
real
that?
quick? What did we have somebody asking? What was your sober date?
Right here. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it or not. 8/15/2004. Where's
All
my
right.
camera? I'm not very good at the whole sideways camera thing.
There you go. We got
Yeah.
you.
Which adds into this chat here with the mental emotional abuse from men my whole life. I don't know if you can see that either. Let them theory. That's my new jam with Mel Robbins.
Well, I tell you, man, it's just
Whatever's working for
with
you.
this, and
Yeah.
we were talking about different things too, as far as you didn't have a sponsor, you didn't have steps, you didn't have that, and with
Yeah.
you, I mean, you. I always say, you do you, because I've had people that'll come talk to us for the first time, asking about My Fighter War. What do we do? What do we don't do? What do we, and what do we think's best? And I've had other people come on saying that they didn't feel comfortable with other organizations and ask what they should do. And the one thing is, you never give up. You have to do what works for you, not what works for your buddy, for your family, for your friends. You have to do what works for you. I've had people, and like you were talking about the 12 steps, some people will do AA, and I've had people come on and they went through those and it wasn't for them. Some people, it depends on what system works for you.
Mhm.
And I believe that, because I was told when I got out that by people who were in AA that were friends of the family, they're like, Manny, you have to go to AA, you have to do the steps, you have to have a sponsor, you have to call every day, you have to do this. I mean, it was one of these things where I was literally like, holy shit. I go, you know what? You guys are making me want to drink right now. And don't forget, in 2020, I didn't have any choice because COVID shut the world down, man.
Yeah.
So
Zoom.
I never had counseling. I never had any type of recovery because the world was shut down.
Yeah.
But by the grace of God, man, I've never had a craving. I've never gone through anything. So it's whatever works for you. What is it that you're doing to I know you were involved in different situations, different recovery. What is it that you're doing?
I just want to clarify that back then that didn't work for me, not having a support group or a sponsor. I ended up drinking and smoking. No, I ended up smoking pot again because I thought pot was okay. So I thought smoking weed was okay, and I didn't drink. But then it all spirals around. It all comes back, and it starts right where you left off. And so so today, since August 15th, 2004, when I stepped foot in my first meeting, I immediately got a sponsor. I have not done it right at all. My sponsor, Paula, will be on here nodding her head and laughing. And something that she's always said to me is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And it's so true. And it's kind of like what I said, like, our trauma and stuff is not going to come out until we're ready to deal with it and until we're ready to face it. And so I've done the steps multiple of times. When I met the current relationship I'm in right now, I hopped the fence to do Narcotics Anonymous because I'm an addict too, and do an immense amount of service work. And so we did that together for a while. And then when all of that didn't work out as planned, I went back to my roots in AA, and I have never felt so comfortable, so loved and wanted and needed. And I'm not doing a whole lot of stuff in that group yet right now, because I'm just hopping back in, like with Hands Across the Bridge and regular meetings and my women's group, which I always hated the women's group. I was like, gross, all these cackling women, that, man. I want to go on like some Spartan races or mud runs and go camp in the snow up on Mount Hood and go do an obstacle course race next morning. That was a lot of my recovery, was being busy, being active, doing those kinds of things. But now with my back injury, I can't do all the things that I love to do, that I've been built to do. But what that's causing me to do is to readdress, I got to slow down. I got to slow down and look at some things and be quiet with myself and connect with these women who are absolutely amazing and supportive and encouraging. And they know where I'm at in my current situation, and I'm not judged. I am just wrapped up and I'm loved, and I'm just there, and I'm forming these friendships at 53 years old. I've never had a friend. Never. Never. I had some people in like fifth, sixth grade that I used to like spend the night at their house or whatever, but like I never had friends. I wasn't allowed to, and I didn't know how to. And we moved so much, so there was no way for me to gain any type of stability or relationships with anybody. So I don't know how to do that shit. I'm like a flutterer. I'm a butterfly. I'm great in a group of people where I can just go bing, 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 turn on the music and like watch me go, and I'm gone, and I will just dance the night away because I'm gonna hurt the next day anyways. So it that's my view on that. When you have a disability or chronic pain, I'm like, I'm gonna live a little bit, and
Oh yeah.
I'm just going to do some life sometimes, you know. We have to fill ourselves with that part of things. We can't live in the anguish all the time because it's depressive. And a lot of the times I am depressed and anxious, and it's just the way it is. So that's what I'm doing now is and my desire to use or drink has not been there in I don't know how many years. And so I'm
Right.
like you, Manny. I'm like that God has lifted that, and I'm so blessed in that area, not like some people.
Mhm.
So my issue working back with my original sponsor is codependency. And so that is my next step to Brenda being like, yeah, screw you people who think you can keep treating me bad and
Mhm.
not treating me like I should be treated. I'm starting to get a little bit of taste of that. And people are obviously seeing that I'm like reaching out and kind of like little dabs of me popping out here and there because I'm on your show right now.
Yes,
Like
you are.
seriously, seriously. So yeah, the last 6 years have been probably the roughest of my, I can only say the roughest of my entire life, and especially being in recovery. The last 6 years have been rough.
Yeah, I tell you, I've had a couple people that every now and then they'll say stuff. They're like, "Man, it's just, you seem like you don't take shit seriously and all that." And I'm like, "Man, just first of all, you have no clue what you're talking about." What I do, like on Mondays when we do these shows, I mean, this is serious. This is about my guest on the show to tell their story. Now, when I pop on doing lives all over the time, I mean, I will talk some silly, crazy shit. I will start telling silly dad jokes. I'll sit there from the gym. I'll be all over the place. I'll be doing lives, just being silly as hell. And it's just like, and I've had some, and like I said, there's no one right way. And for me,
Mhm.
I said this to this person who was telling me this, you know, what's the use of being sober if you're not living life and being
Mhm.
silly as shit and doing all this crazy stuff? I'm doing crazy stuff. I mean, just like I was when I was using that I'm doing now, because that was stuff I used to love doing, just crazy,
Yeah.
crazy off the wall, adrenaline junkie stuff, living life to the fullest, but not under the influence anymore. I'm making
Exactly.
the decision. Manny is, no one else, not drugs, not alcohol. Manny's making these decisions. And you gotta live. I mean, I've been so blessed to be sober, and I'm gonna enjoy every second of being an asshole. I'm gonna enjoy every second of being silly. I'm gonna sit here and tell crazy, stupid dad jokes
Mhm.
and making people laugh. And then at the same time, I'm gonna do the next time you see me, I'm gonna do a live, and you're gonna see me crying like a baby because I just was a pallbearer for my brother Sydney, taking him to his final resting place. And then you're
Yeah.
gonna see me telling silly jokes again.
Yep.
It's life, and we got to live it to the fullest, man, because
Yeah.
we have so many people that we know, that I'm sure that didn't make it and that are
Mhm.
no longer with us. And by us telling our stories and then even
5 in the
sharing
last 8
theirs,
months.
there you
5, yep, 5 deaths, including my son's father that I was telling you about. He died of drugs. He dirty needle, went to the hospital for surgery and had a stroke right there, and that was it.
Wow.
Yep.
like they say, Russian roulette, man. And w- like I've always said with what we're doing is I will never ever, tell someone that it's my way or it's this organization. There's only one way. I'll never do that. I will promote every single organization that's out there
Mhm.
that that's there to help with drugs and alcohol. Everyone, I'll be there to be your biggest supporter. I'll come and speak. We'll do whatever we can,
Mhm.
but I'll never sit there and say, if you don't do this, you will fail.
Mhm.
I mean, that's
Mhm.
just setting yourself up for
Yep.
disaster.
Yep.
Um, but with what you're doing is just amazing. I mean, first, and like I said, coming on this show
Yes.
and sharing very painful things that, like I've said, when I first started my Fight Our War for the first time, I didn't know what I was doing. I never started anything like this. I was clueless, and I'm watching these people from New Zealand, Ireland, South Africa. I'm like, are you serious? And then I was looking at some of these stories. They're like, Manny, I'm so grateful you started this family and this and that. And I was just, and then they started telling personal stories like you just told to me, who they have no idea. And then they're popping on saying, you know what? I'm not having a good day. I'm afraid of this. All of a sudden, bing, 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 bing. There's like 20 other family members. I'm here. You got this. Message me. Here's my number. I'm going to message you. And I'm like, do you guys realize I formed this organization a week ago. We're telling each other stories that our families and friends don't know, but we have this bond. We are part of an elite fraternity that can understand what each other's going through. And we're going to be there, and we're never going to judge you. We're never going to look down on you. We are going to love you and motivate you and support you. And we're going to look at Sunshine for being Sunshine and love Brenda. That's what we're going to do. And if you stumble and you have a hard time, here's a hand.
Because Brenda's enough.
We're picking you up because
Brenda's
did
beautiful.
you hear that? Brenda's enough. Brenda's more than enough. Stephanie, Trisha, Tammy, everyone, Katie, Ginger, all of our family in here. We are all here for Brenda, and we're all here for each other. And you can see, and I'm not ignoring any of you that are in our comments.
The messages are wonderful.
But the thing is, with my guests, I this is their story to tell, and I don't want to jump back into the comments and back out. These are here for you to read, Brenda, when you're done with this, because you have got a shit ton of family here that I just glancing at some of these. When you get done with this show and you get a chance, you're going to have a lot of reading to do, because you've got people Kleenex here who are, we're all here as one family. And your kids, may have gone through a lot, but you know what? So did you. It doesn't make anything right or make it okay, but you know what? You live and you learn, and that's what you've done. Look at the people you're helping. I mean,
and my four grandkids, praise God, have never seen me loaded, and they don't have to ever see me loaded. And I get to be there, and I'm a little bit physically broken, but I'm still a young grandma, and I'll still take them all four down in the middle of the mall and have a wrestling match and get snapped at by people and family members, and even their moms or whatever, like, stop it, mom, stop it, you're embarrassing. Well, man, that's stuff that they get to take with them, right? It's like, that's being in the moment, having fun. In fact, just this last weekend, like I posted it all over. I spent a lot of money that I really didn't have after Christmas, but you cannot replace or buy memories. You just can't. You can't. I'm going to go to work tomorrow, and I'm going to get a paycheck when I get a paycheck. And that's all stuff that doesn't matter. These kids are going to remember, and they're all from split families too. The two older boys lost their dad like 8 months ago. And then Dallas, my third one, his mom is, thank God, like 16 months clean and sober off fentanyl. And that girl should not be alive, but she is. I took her to detox probably 7 times in a year and a half, and I didn't think she was going to make it. And I had to put up that boundary and say, this is your deal. I can't do it for you, and I can't live in your addiction with you. I'm here when you're ready. I'm here when you're ready. And there's been a few times.
This is your daughter that you were talking about, right?
My older daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I remember that we chatted a little bit, in the past about some of the things. And I remember you telling me, and again, I mean, it just goes to show the strength. And sometimes, the things, the decisions, and as as not only dealing with this, but as a parent, my older brother, Rick, lost his son, Kevin, who is basically my little brother. I saw him being born, and I was at his funeral, and he was on my show, and we were talking, and he said, Manny, he goes, someone asked me, what should I do? And Rick said, never give up on the person you love. and it's hard. I've got people in my, and I'm sure like all the people, the mistakes we've made, the people that we hurt, our loved ones by the things that we have said, our verbal abuse, our physical abuse, just the way we're acting out, but then I had a friend of mine who was in recovery. He said, I'm sober now. He's been a drug and he's alcoholic and an addict for almost 30 plus years or more. And he's sober now, and he's got about 8 years. And he's got some family members who, he burned that bridge and it can't be rebuilt. And he's sitting there talking shit about them. Yeah, and I'm like, whoa, you've been clean for 8 years. God bless you. He goes, you're a complete mess. You're a complete asshole for 30 years.
Yeah.
And how many times I know for me, oh, I'm sorry, this will never happen again, to the family and friends. So some bridges can't be rebuilt, but that's all right. Again, back to my word, you got to own it. And, you are, you're a product of that. You're owning it. Your videos and your shorts and all that, your posts and all that, that's you. And that's part of that sunshine thing that I nicknamed you, is because you can see, obviously we can see the pain from, there you go. When you're telling your story and you're telling about these things, you can obviously see how upsetting it is and how painful it is. But at the same time, that doesn't define Brenda. This does. You coming out, you helping other people, you sharing your story, you running around with your dogs and, being silly and dancing and all that. That is living. So, so thank you, man. You're saving lives. You're helping show that this is not a death sentence. It's only a freaking word. Addiction will be beat, can be beat. We've beaten it. And for those of you who, don't think you can, reach out, check the ego at the door. If you sit there, if you're going back and forth thinking, or I'm sorry, if somebody in your family or your life, if you think they have a problem, they have a problem. If that's in your head that you're seeing something, don't ever say, well, I should have said something, but I didn't know. If you think there's an issue, bring it to someone's attention, because if you don't, the next time you see them will be at their funeral. And I don't want anyone to live their life thinking, oh, I wish I would have said this. I wish I could have done that.
Rather have somebody pissed off at you than.
Exactly. I had a lady tell me one time during the show, she said, about addiction in her family. And it was her husband and her son. And she said, oh, but we don't talk about that outside the family, though. And we don't discuss this because it makes them upset. And I just got right in her face. I said, well, that's fine. I go, well, the next time I see you and we discuss it, I go, by not discussing it, you just put a drink in your husband's hand, and not by discussing it, you just put a needle in your son's arm. But that's okay, because the next time we discuss this, we'll be at their funeral. And she was just kind of offended by it, because she didn't want anyone to know, because she was ashamed. And it's just, we have to get past that. And it's hard, man. For not only us as the ones going through it, but our family, our friends, they don't want to see us hurting. It's just a hard life, but you're just proof that, look at you. Just look at, you're on the committee to get, Skylar and me there to bother you at hands across the bridge.
Oh my God, we're going to have so much fun. I can't wait.
Yep.
We are going to have a great time. And, there's so much more to your story as far as different details. And we will tag on it more. And as I told you before, as you see all the time, I jump on here all throughout the day, and I'm off for the next 3 months because of the shoulder situation. So I'm going to be doing a shit ton more lives and videos and TikToks and all that stuff. And, we'll get you on doing more. You can spread your message more. We can do that. I'll reach out to you and we'll set up some stuff so you can come on and share little, snippets to help people along the way.
Okay. Sounds good.
But, Brenda, I really appreciate you, and I know there's some very hard parts, and you just need, I really hope you're as proud of yourself as we are of you for what you did tonight. And it's very commendable, man. Absolutely. And like I said, so tonight when you look in that mirror before you go to bed, just remember you got a champion looking back at you.
Thank you.
And before we let you go here, you got anything you want to tell anybody? You got any words of wisdom, or just something that you want to just tell somebody, or just let them know, or just some parting words?
just touching on exactly what you have said already, whatever means or ways that you are staying clean and sober today, acknowledge it, be truthful with yourself and be truthful with someone else, because that takes the power out of the addiction by letting someone else know. And nobody does any part of it perfect. The only thing you can do perfect is to not pick up. That's the only thing that can happen perfectly with our disease of addiction or alcoholism, is don't pick up. And I'm working on trying to practice time for myself. That hasn't happened yet. That codependent thing, I guess. And so, yeah, you choose, you talk to somebody, and don't be so hard on yourself. And I'm going to hold on to those words too, because I need to work on all of that. And I'm
Well,
so grateful for this opportunity to get on and share. And uh, my life is an open book. It always has been. And one more thing, for those of you who are like, oh my God, I'm going to cry. Oh no, I can't cry. My nickname has been Faucet since I got into recovery, because I'm a crier. Yep. My friend
well,
Mariana, she was like, oh God, there goes Faucet again. And then I would giggle and then I would cry more. And still to this day, I cry because there's a lot of healing that needs to be
Yes.
done. And so I'm going to keep crying and until I heal that part. And then when another wound opens up, I'll probably cry through that one too. And then when I share and I speak, I'm going to cry because those are my emotions and I'm passionate about what's happened and where I'm going in life.
well, definitely. And I've had, when I first started this, I actually had this guy who was an actor, a producer from Hollywood with all this experience. And he saw my very first show. And this guy was like, I want to produce your show. He couldn't believe that this was the first show interview I ever did. And I told him what I wanted. So he wanted to do all this. And, we were talking about doing some recordings, and he's like, you wear your shit right on your sleeve, man. He goes, when you're pissed, he goes, people can tell when you're and all this. And he goes, because I was talking and I started to lose it. I was talking about my brother Jerry, who's the one that I crawled into his hospital bed, and he's the one that died right in my arms. I said goodbye to my brother, and I held him as he took his last breath. As I was telling that story, I lost it, and I started crying, and I ended up doing it, and he's in the background going, like, we can cut. I'm looking at him, and I finished it. He goes, we could edit this stuff out, and I'm like, why? And I said, you know what? When I'm talking on film, when I'm on camera, if it's funny and you see me laughing like a little sissy, little out of control little kid here, it's because I'm happy. If you see me crying, it's because I'm up. They're called emotions, just like you said.
Yes.
Don't ever be embarrassed to show that you're happy. Don't ever be embarrassed to show that you're sad and all that. Share it and know that, especially here at My Fighter War, you will never be judged by being you. And whether you're going by Faucet or Sunshine, you are stuck with us. You are stuck with our family, and
Ditto.
then we love you, man. We love you,
Love
and
you
we
too.
appreciate you. And we will be in touch, and we will be doing a lot more in the future. So I'll probably be hitting you up tomorrow. And we'll talk about it.
Sounds good.
All right, hey, thank you so
Thanks,
much. And
Manny.
we will
Thanks,
talk
Lynn.
soon.
Bye now. Have a
Bye.
great
Love
night.
you.
Love you. Glad you were here.
Well,
Woo, baby.
that I tell you what, that was
Powerful.
intense, man.
Very
She did a
powerful.
great job, and I know that there were some times, there were some things that were very difficult for her. And this isn't easy. People will say sometimes, they want to come on the show, and as you know, we've had people that'll come on and then they back off because they once they start, they just can't do it. So
And that's okay too.
it's okay.
It's
There's
not the
nothing
right
wrong with
time.
that. But for Brenda to do that, it just shows the strength and the courage. So God
To
bless
this
you.
family, I'm reading these messages are also so
Yes.
powerful.
Thank
so
you guys
kind,
so
so
much.
loving. But that's what this family is. It's
Just
it's
a real quick
incredible.
buzz through. Stephanie, my cousin Laura, Danny.
I can read the names.
Yeah, I got them right here.
Okay.
I'm just buzzing through them here. But all of you, and a lot of them, like I said, we didn't read because this is Brenda's time. And I didn't want to go back and forth because I didn't want to interrupt her story. But all of you, Brenda's going to be watching them and we're going to be going through them. So thank you guys so much for your support and everything for Brenda, for My Fighter War, for all of us. We love you guys. and keep fighting a good fight.